Welcome, everybody. I am AJ Rage and my brother
Mighty Mike.
right here from Enter the Ring. Apologize for us just having our pictures up, a little bit of video issues, but we were not going to stop today. So, Mike, why don't we go ahead and jump into it, brother? Let's talk. What do you think?
Well, I think first on the docket is a recap of this past Saturday's 2020 Fight of the Year, in my opinion.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I know we still have a couple of months left in 2020, but I mean I don't think anything is going to top what we saw on Saturday night from the bubble at the MGM Grand.
Zepeda, Baranchak. Why don't you go ahead and run it down, bro? Give us your take on it.
All right, quick rundown. Most everybody knows a knockdown field slugfest. It turned out to be everything that. Let me rephrase that. People who know boxing knew this was a can't miss fight. I would, I'd be pretty comfortable saying that a lot of so-called experts completely missed the fight and then ended up going back and watching the replay at a later time or the next day. Because maybe they didn't know much about either Chon or Ivan Baranchek, or maybe it didn't interest them as much as it should have. But this fight lived up to be an absolute barn burner, man. I mean, the only thing lacking from this fight was the crowd. If the crowd would have been there, it would have just been an atmosphere probably unrivaled in the last few years in boxing.
Absolutely. I think I said it on my morning show, Mayhem in the Morning, that I really felt that Chon had to make a statement. And boy, did he make a statement. I mean, it was like, welcome Chon Zepeda to 140 pounds.
Yeah, and we've said this before. You and I both know Chon Cepeda. And we've witnessed him training. I've actually been lucky enough to witness extensive hours in camp for probably his last 3 or 4 fights, with the exception of the one fight he trained with Freddie Roach at Wildcard against Ramirez. That was the only camp in recent memory that I wasn't able to kind of sit in and kind of observe. But the guy's the guy is everything that we all thought he could be, and it's just starting now to come to fruition. The rest of the world's starting to see it, and it's exciting for him. We're happy for him, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. We were at the Kwaiken. Was it Kwaiken?
yeah, well, he had come out to watch another good friend of ours, a stablemate of his at the time, Renee Moreno, fight a 4 rounder there at the Quiet Cannon in Montebello. And what's so weird on that night, bro, is I think I remember we were there, and you know scattered throughout the venue there was fighters here and there. Those couple fighters, Paul Benke was there, former world champion, and a few other people that they had. The announcer, remember the announcer
Oh,
mentioned
you got
that
to talk
they
about
take that.
Jaime.
Oh yeah, well yeah, no, 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 not
Oh,
not that one, but um, what I remember distinctly seeing Chon there with his brother, and we were talking to him. And when they did the roll call, of the fighters in attendance, he got completely overlooked.
they did that
I mean,
with Mungia too. Mungia's sitting right next to me and my daughter, and John Molina's behind us. They they announced John. They announced other fighters. Even announced some local kid. And I'm sitting next to the WBO junior middleweight champion of the world. And I'm like,
I
hello.
know. I don't know. I know, but what the point I was trying to make was that if that fight happens now, I mean, you could just imagine. I mean, Chon won't
I
won't
know.
won't be able to sit down. He won't have a moment's peace, because those kinds of fights, they kind of catapult you into you're instantly recognized, and it's almost a stardom. You become a rock star overnight, for lack of a better term. And
Absolutely.
like I said, Chon was always a rock star to me, and I've told him multiple times in training, and I've told his brother, you know, and just over the years that I've known him, man, he's got everything it takes to be a world champion and to retain that status for a long time. He's 31 years old now. He'll I mean, I think he just turned 31 a short time ago, but he still has a lot of life left in him. He still has several years in the game, depending on what he wants to do. But He's fully capable of winning a title and defending it multiple times. And I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to maybe try to make that jump up to 147. He's comfortable at 140. He can even go back down to 135. He was recently quoted as saying. But here's a guy that, like I said, and you mentioned it on Mayhem in the morning. I listened to your morning recap, and he's a very humble kid, man. He's very humble. He's very family oriented, as most of these fighters from SoCal are. A lot of these Hispanic fighters, Mexican American fighters, they're just humble kids, man. They're humble kids, and I mean, I call him a kid. It's because he's younger than me, but Chon's not a kid. He's a full grown man, but he's just got it all, man. Couldn't be happier for the guy.
No,
You know,
I absolutely agree, and I think I love the fact that Tim Bradley was so excited, and he was kind of like, without any hesitation, he was like, Chon Zepeda will be a world champion. And anybody knows anything about boxing knows, if you look at the current status of the champions that are out there, you got Ramirez, you got Taylor. Ramirez is already matched up against Zepeda. 99.9% of the people that watch that fight that know anything about boxing know Zepeda won that fight. If you go
well,
back,
it's real simple. Boxing, that was a 12-round fight. Okay, in my opinion, and I watched that fight multiple times too. In my opinion, he swept the first 6 rounds. There might have been the fifth round that could have been a toss-up, but yes, Ramirez did make a push later on, and maybe around 7, 8, 9. He had won a few, and then maybe I want to say it was the 10th round, 10th or 11th round. Chon on my scorecard, if he needed to secure one more round to win a decision, to win the majority decision, and he easily won the 10th. I think it was the 10th round. Easily won that
oh
round.
yeah, the
Landed
10th
some
round.
big shots, but he's in Fresno. Uh, he's in Fresno. He's the champion. They're trying to set up a big fight between him and, at that time, it could have been Regis Prograis. What ended up being Josh Taylor. I think in a perfect world, Bob Arum would have much preferred Regis Prograis win the World Boxing Super Series over
Josh Taylor.
Josh Taylor, and kept that money all in the United States. But
Absolutely.
as fate would have it, Josh Taylor, he's from Scotland, so depending on wherever that fight happens, but all you have to do is go back and watch that fight, and you don't even have to watch the fight. Go back and watch the fight and watch when they announce the decision. Look at the look, or basically take note of the look on Robert Garcia's face
Oh
when
yeah.
that decision was ready. He
was
looked like
shocked.
he just saw a ghost.
Oh yeah.
He looked like, I mean, he didn't. I mean, he did like this half-hearted clap. Um, so, anyways, I mean, we're kind of digressing and talking about what it led up to this point, but go ahead and do a quick rundown on what you think is going to happen between Ramirez and Taylor if they do in fact fight, and then with hopefully Chon winning in the wings.
With Ramirez and Taylor,
Hmm.
honestly, I see Josh Taylor winning a close decision, only because
I feel the same way.
Ramirez is a bit reckless. He's not really fast. I said it before. Josh Taylor, he gets away with a lot of dirty tactics, but he's not going to get away with them against Ramirez because Ramirez is a dirty fighter on his own right. But he's not going. But Josh Taylor's not going to be facing a masterful boxer like Chon Zepeda, a guy who knows how to feint, a guy who knows how to move. So I see Taylor with the advantage there, but it's only going to lead to the inevitable, which is the guy waiting in the pathway, and that's Zepeda.
Agreed. And they say styles make fights. Yeah,
Yep.
Ramirez was able to, for a few rounds there against Zepeda, kind of impose his will just by coming forward and taking
Yeah.
some big shots. He took some big shots. He took
Well, I
some big
think
shots
Zepeda
from
proved it
Chon.
this week against a guy. Honestly, I was impressed with Branchek. The guy is a physical beast. He is what his
I,
name
I
is.
I couldn't believe he was 140 pounds.
I know. The guy
I
looked like a
looked at him
junior
at the weigh,
middleweight.
and I said, yeah, he looked like he could step up there and fight I don't know, like a Liam Smith or something, like a Liam Smith, or man, he was a big guy.
Well, I think the thing is too is you go back and you watch Branchek versus Taylor. That was it was a close fight. It was not a walkover. And the two
No, I
knockdown.
mean, with the exception of the two knockdowns,
Yeah.
but it was a very close fight, and they both had their moments. And like you said, Taylor was worse for wear after that fight. You know what I
Well,
mean?
Taylor lost the last 3 rounds. He ran the last 2 rounds, and I mean, I couldn't believe how much holding in both the Prograis and in the Baranchek fight that Taylor got away with. He's got a lot of dirty tactics, but he's got this thing about him where he kind of admires his work a little bit, and against a dangerous puncher like Zepeda. And I think that's one of the things that wasn't conveyed to the people in the beginning of the fight. Everybody kept talking about how strong Baranchek was. Yeah, the guy hits hard, but the guy with the one-hitter quitter is Zepeda, and he put it on full display.
Yeah, I think I told you I talked to his former trainer Robert Akrazar the morning after the fight. We talked about the fight in depth, and he was, of course, just very happy for Chon. But he said to me, he said, "Man," he says, when Chon sits down and fights, he's almost unbeatable.
Oh
When
yeah,
he moves backwards and when he tries to box and stuff, he's actually a little bit more vulnerable. He can box, but he does his best work when he's coming forward. And I don't know if you know this, but Robert had told me this too, that there was a period of about 3 years where Chon fought orthodox. Chon fought right-handed, and they had in a 3 year span. I think he said they had 15 consecutive knockouts. When he decided to switch southpaw, I believe, just because he felt he could get more leverage on his left hand from a southpaw stance. Which is why if you ever watch Chon throw the left hand, he has a tendency to kind of lift that left foot and kind of follow it. He
yeah.
kind of falls into the punch, and that's one thing where it caused him some trouble in the past with head clashes. But I think it's because he throws that left hand. It might not look like it's just this overpowering Mike Tyson type shot, but it has power, and the momentum carries him forward. And those are
Yeah.
little things that, like I said, those are years and years of people working with him and me. Like I said, luckily, last 3-4 years, or about the last 3 years, watching him train, you could see that. You could see that left hand comes.
Well, I'll tell you this. You were absolutely right when you said it. Sometimes it just takes that one moment when you have a knockout. That's what kind of put Tiafimo on the scope of everybody, because if those knockouts over Menard and
Diego Magdaleno.
Magdaleno and Comey. But if you go back and look at those, you can't put
Well,
any of
let,
those.
well,
Go
well,
ahead.
let's go ahead. Let's since you brought up Teofimo, let's go ahead and segue into that. Let's go ahead and then I mean, just a quick recap. Like, Chon Zepeda, fifth round knockout, devastating knockout over Ivan Baranchek. You mentioned Teo. Let's segue into that fight, because that fight is coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Little less than 2 weeks. For all the belts at 135, with the exception of, I guess, Tank has a belt at 135, the WBA belt, but I guess Lomachenko's considering like the super champion or something at 135. I don't even know anymore. The WBA, I can't keep track of how many belts they have.
it's crazy. I'm telling you, it is just, it's nuts how it's set up now. I mean, linear champion, silver champion,
Champion emeritus,
Taco Bell
super champion,
champion. Who knows?
diamond champion.
I think.
So let's
Yeah,
talk
go ahead.
about that. Let's talk about that fight. As everybody knows, it's on regular ESPN, October the 17th, which is what, 12 days from now.
12 days.
11, 12 days from now. Um, Lomachenko unification bout against Teofimo Lopez. I mean, go ahead and what's your breakdown and prediction of that fight?
I've been saying it since the very beginning when this fight was first talked about. Teofimo Lopez needs Lomachenko. Lomachenko doesn't need Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has his best victory on paper because of the title that he won over Comey was against the most durable champion, the most beatable champion, but a guy that we knew was never going to face Lomachenko. So in reality, I think Lomachenko was rooting for Teofimo, knowing that the kid's ego would make that mistake and cross his path, where Richard Comey was a little bit smarter. And he was like, hey, I'll keep my title as long as I can, but I'm not facing Lomachenko. We've said that many times. But I think the problem with Teofimo is
Well,
his,
yeah.
his dad is in the middle of this, and he's crossed that line more than any father or promoter I've ever seen in boxing. The things that he's said.
He's an embarrassment to
Oh,
he's an
absolutely.
embarrassment to our sport. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that's here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any stable of fighters. Only trains his son. Um, and I mean, I would equate him to like a Panama Lewis. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm not saying he would knowingly take the stuffing out of gloves, or he has, but he's the kind of guy that you can see that has such a low character that he would do something like that.
Well,
You could just see it. I mean, he's just a different class of individual. He talks like anybody in the world knows who the hell. I don't even know the guy's name. All I know is
Junior
his name's
Junior
his name's
Lopez.
Junior.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, uh, the man has talked and talked, and basically they talked their way into this fight. They've talked their way into this fight, and you know, hey, sometimes you get what you ask for,
Well,
and
it's always amazing to me, bro, that you got people out there, whether it be Junior Lopez or Devin Haney's dad or whatever, and they make it seem like Lomachenko isn't relevant, like he's running from their fighters. Why would Lomachenko run from Teofimo Lopez? Why would he run from Devin Haney? It doesn't make any sense. The bottom line is, Lomachenko said from the very beginning, win a title makes the sense of the fight. Lopez won the title. What did Lomachenko say? Welcome to my club. Now
welcome
let's
to
do
my
it.
club.
Yep.
Now we'll fight.
Exactly.
Now we'll fight. Yeah.
And then what really gets me is when you hear Junior Lopez talking with his son, and he's like, this guy doesn't want this fight. He's done everything to get out of it. I'm like, hold on a second. You were the guys that talked about destiny. You're the guys that talked about you'd fight him on the moon. You're the guys that said money didn't matter. But when it came down to the final time, when you had to sign on the line, you balked at
money became an issue. All
exactly. You didn't want
the very thing that you said would not be an issue became an issue.
And then Lomachenko being the great champion that he is, but most of all, if Lomachenko wanted to bow out of that fight, he said, hey, you know what? That's Bob Arum's problem. He can't get the money that this kid wants. Fight doesn't happen. But Lomachenko at that moment said, you know what? I won his ass. And he put $800,000 of his purse into Lopez's pocket to make this fight happen. And if you think Lopez didn't get a moment of sleep that night, guess again.
Yeah, and you know what? There's conflicting reports on actual the specifics on how much money. Some people are now even going out there trying to do damage control and say, well, no, Lomachenko didn't give up any of his purse.
Yes, he
Bob
did.
Arum and ESPN just found more money. Either way, it's fake news. Either way, like you said, if there's a fighter out there that has earned the right to pick and choose who he wants to fight, it's Lomachenko. Here's a guy. He's the fastest person to ever win three world titles in 3 weight divisions, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, world champion in amateur. In my opinion, the best amateur that's ever lived, bar none.
Absolutely.
It's not even a discussion. Okay. But here's a guy that could have very easily said, you know what, Bob, I want to go fight this guy instead, or this guy instead, or whatever, and then I'll come and fight you. No, he said, okay, you won the title. Okay, you're in the way of me completing my dream. Let's make the fight.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I feel that when people like Junior Lopez or whoever he is, when guys like him, Ruben Guerrero, Angel Garcia, when these guys interject themselves as a part of the conversation, it shows their lack of strength in character. They're so mentally weak individuals. They're mentally weak. They live vicariously through their kids because none of the 3 has ever laced up a glove probably in their fucking lives. So they live vicariously through their sons because their sons. I mean, I can't say nothing about the fighters themselves. Their sons have the guts to get in there, lace them up, and be a professional fighter. But the dads themselves, I mean, if it was my father, our father, talking that nonsense, you know what I mean? We wouldn't stand for it. We'd be like, wait a minute. I'm the one in here fighting. You don't speak for me. I'm a grown ass man. I speak for myself. The fact that Teofimo allows his dad to carry on in the manner he does, it just shows that he's mentally weak as well.
Well, they had all that breakdown when he married that girl recently.
That girl, yeah, there was a big familial breakdown and estrangement and the whole thing. Yeah.
So what do you think is going to happen, bro, when Lomachenko completely outclasses Teofimo, and Teofimo doesn't have the energy to keep throwing those bombs because it's not working, and the arguments that are going to ensue in that corner between Teofimo and Junior, the desperation,
the stress cracks are already there.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna see the results of all the tension that's been building and brewing for the last couple of years, ever since Teofimo kind of branched out on his own. And in fact, Junior wasn't a part of the negotiations. Because basically, I think what it came down to is Bob Arum and probably Brad Goodman, the matchmaker, and whoever else probably said, hey, we don't want your loudmouth dad in here fucking up these negotiations. We're trying to get business done here. So he had to remove himself from it. He probably was forcibly removed by his son, and God knows what's going to happen. I mean, the excuses are going to be a dime a dozen. They're going to just be flying off. Oh, wow, I had trouble making weight. I'm too big for this division. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Or like you said, there could be a complete and utter mental breakdown in the corner, and
He might throw his
God
dad out
knows
of the
what can.
damn corner.
Yeah.
You know,
Who
I
knows?
mean,
Who
the
knows?
thing is Tiafimo's already shown that he's mentally weak in that sense when it comes to his family, with what happened. So when he gets in there, like I said, when I hear a fighter of his level and his dad especially, a guy who has nobody other than his son to say that I'm even relevant or that I even have any type of an existence in boxing, downplay what Lomachenko and his father have already accomplished and saying, oh, we already know. We got like 4 different ways we know how to beat him, but we're not going to tell you because you don't know. And I said this
It's
on my
it's very
podcast.
it's very simple, bro. When Teofimo walks away from boxing, you'll never hear from his father again.
No,
Anatoly Lomachenko also works with Alexander Usyk. He's also worked a little by little with who recently retired Vazdik. But there's some other Ukrainian and Eastern European fighters that he's actually currently working with in Oxnard, California right now. He'll stay relevant in boxing. He'll stay as relevant as he wants to be.
exactly. I mean, the thing is, like I said in my morning podcast, when you downplay your opponent and Teofimo going out there saying that Lomachenko isn't this, he ain't shit, I'm gonna kick his ass, he ain't nothing. You downplay this person that you're getting the opportunity to fight with, so your victory means nothing. You just took all the gloss off of your victory. If you get it,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't get these
exactly.
guys. But hey, you know what?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah,
12 days till Teofimo has to sit on the chair and face the executioner because that's what it's going to be. So let's get into the next one. You ready, bro? Let's do it.
yeah.
Davis, Santa Cruz. I want to hear your take on this.
Okay, here's my prediction. My prediction. I mean, if I had to choose a winner at this point, I would say Tank Davis is just physically a little bit too strong for Leo. But Leo, there is a way Leo could win this fight. Leo has to fight this fight in the same manner he fought Carl Frampton in the rematch. He has to box for the first few rounds. Leo's a notoriously slow starter, and I think by his own admission he'll tell you that. He starts slow, meaning he doesn't get into he can't get into these toe to toe exchanges from Jump Street. He's got to box the first 4 rounds. He's got a good jab. He's got a good jab. He's got a good right hand. He throws a nice little right inside uppercut, and he's got a little pop on it too. And he throws out a little shot where he kind of goes to your sternum. It's like a chest shot. Uh, there's a term for it. I can't remember what Johnny used to call it, but anyways, um, if he's able to get out of the first 4 rounds by boxing, and even if he's down on the cards for the first 4 rounds, then he could put his foot on the gas, and then, like you said, maybe there might be a shift in momentum where Tank starts to slow down, Leo starts to speed up, and Leo can just with sheer volume, you know, um, overwhelm Tank, and I don't know. I mean, has Tank ever really been tested? Has ever really been hit solid on the chin? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just don't know. And well, he a little bit against the one guy. I can't think what his name is right now. The one where Tank got away with the that illegal shot to the back of his head. But the thing is, I look at with Leo and Tank is that obviously you got to pull with Tank. He's the bigger guy naturally. He's an explosive puncher, but he's very inactive. And the thing that I got an issue with Tank right now is he's feeling himself too much. He's put himself in a class level that he really doesn't belong. He doesn't have that marquee opponent victory, with the exception to Pedraza and whatever was going on with Pedraza. But that wasn't the sniper that night. A guy
Yeah,
like
no. Tank's got a following, meaning like he's selling tickets, but like you said, he doesn't have that signature win on his resume yet.
yeah, yeah,
Now, if he beats Leo, let's say he beats Leo in devastating fashion, or he ekes out a decision or whatever, uh, what can really be said about that? You fought a guy who's coming up in weight, who everybody said who probably was at his limit at 126, because he started Leo back in the day. I think he started at 118, 122.
mm-hmm.
He's fought majority of his career at 126, and now he's coming up another 4 pounds. I don't know. I don't know. This might be another one of those things where you're like, okay, well, you got the win on Leo, but there's a lot of guys at 135 pounds, the killers in and around that division that who actually fight in their division, not a guy coming up. So
Exactly. And I think the thing is too that a lot of people are looking at. I know myself personally is what kind of tank's going to show up. We know the different versions of Leo based off of the fights that we've watched him fight in the past. Tank, like I said, the video that I watched of him, he didn't look in very good shape. If he doesn't make weight, I think there's a huge chance this fight gets canceled, and I think Tank Davis gets put on the back burner because there's going to be some disciplinary action because this is, I think, the second or third time he's missed weight. If Leo's smart, if he can withstand that fury of punches that's going to come from Tank in the early rounds, maybe take it to the fifth or sixth, work some body work in there, kind of take Tank's power away a little bit. You know, Leo's a guy who could throw 1,300 punches in a fight. He's not going to stop punching, and if Tank does, who knows?
Yeah, like I said, you know, it's no mystery. I'm going to be rooting for Leo. I mean, he's a Southern California kid. I actually know one of the guys that he's sparring with right now. I'll leave that. You know, I'm going to keep that under wraps now because I don't want to mess with the integrity of the fight and give any information to the other camp. But I know that he's sparring hard. He's sparring multiple days a week, and he's training hard for this fight. I heard his father's out of the hospital now.
Oh, that's a good thing.
He was back in the hospital for a short time, and maybe his father being out now, that's the spark that he needed now, that the inspiration that he needed. Because he's a very devout family guy, man. He takes care of his family, and it's not a mystery that he's very close with his father, and he feels like he's fighting for his father. He feels as long as his father keeps fighting for his own life, then Leo's going to keep fighting. So
Isn't it amazing how boxing is turning into a comic book? You got your good guy and your bad guy. Now, when you look at a guy, let's say like Leo Santa Cruz and Tank Davis, Leo, who we know, he's a great guy, in and out of the ring, very humble, very gracious, takes care of his family. Tank, on the other hand, is a hothead, not real good with the fans. It is the good versus evil, just like Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. I'm seeing more and more of this.
yeah, and like I said, I mean, I guess that's just the world we're living in now. There's got to be a line drawn, and I think the days of just two guys being respectful of each other and making a great fight, I guess those are long gone. I don't know. I can't remember the last time a high profile fight had two guys that were just. I mean, I know there's been some in recent memory, but off the top of my head right now, I can't think of it. I mean, even the even someone like Manny Pacquiao, who's notorious for being just a gentleman and just never says anything negative about his opponent. I mean, I think Keith Thurman himself even tried to try to be the bad guy, but you can see right through it because Keith Thurman's not a bad guy.
No,
Keith
he's
Thurman's
not. He's
he
not.
could very easily have played the bad guy, but you could just see it just wasn't genuine, and so.
So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna be wrapping up here pretty soon. But I want to talk about one more. It was just announced: Terrence Crawford, Kell Brook.
Okay, we're a little bit early to jump on this, but we will obviously have another video where we kind of break it down as we start to do our homework on this fight a little bit more. But I will say this: I didn't think this fight was going to happen, and in my opinion, this is definitely, without a doubt, this will be the best name on Terrence Crawford's resume. You're
If he
talking about
wins.
a former world champion. No, I'm not saying to win. I'm just saying on his resume.
Oh yeah.
Meaning like the guy he's going to fight.
Uh-huh.
Because these guys that he's fought recently, I mean, you really can't say any of these guys are top. I mean, Amir Khan was a former world champion, but was coming off of devastating losses to like Canelo Alvarez, where he was knocked unconscious. You know, I mean, finally Terrence Crawford's fighting a top 10 welterweight. And not a guy from 130 or 135 or 140 coming up to welterweight. He's actually fighting a legitimate welterweight. I think this is a huge mistake. I think.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you on my part, it's no mystery. I'm a Kell Brook fan. I think he's a physical specimen. I think he is by far the most talented welterweight in the world today. I think if Kell Brook didn't venture and fight the monster Gennady Golovkin and stayed at 147. And wouldn't have got injured and had to take the layoff, his bout against Errol Spence, the outcome would have been different. Okay?
Yeah, because refresh my memory on this. Okay, he won the world title against Sean Porter here in Los Angeles, right?
Correct.
And then he defended it once, I think, but then he decided did he vacate the title to go fight Golovkin at 160?
No,
Or
he had a couple of defenses, and he was trying to make a fight between him and Errol Spence, and a few other people happened. Nothing was happening. Nobody wanted a piece of Kell Brook. So Kell basically said, "Hey, I'm a fighter. I want to fight," and he went after Gennady.
well, no, somebody was supposed to fight Gennady, and that fight fell through.
Yeah,
And
and he
yeah,
stepped in.
yeah, I don't remember who it was, but yeah, like you said, I mean, if he doesn't take that fight, God knows where he'd be right now at 147. He very well could be a multiple belt holder at 147.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing is with Terrence and what's going on right now is that I don't think you can't really put all the credit in Terrence's pocket for saying, "Hey, look, he's showing he's a true champion. He's not going to run away from Cal Brook." No, I think Terrence Crawford's back's against the wall. I think Bob Arum's in front of him, telling him, "Listen, I can't defend you anymore. Listen, you've got to fight somebody. I cannot find you another Uric Escamboa or a or a Khan or something. You've got to fight somebody. People think this guy's broken. Maybe he is. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. I honestly think, and I saw in Kell Brook's last interview, he has a disdain for Terrence Crawford because of the things how Terrence Crawford tries to perceive Kell Brook and how he's not relevant. When he said that Kell Brook and Sean Porter and a few others, like, what's the reason I should fight them? They're not world champions. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And the
Yeah, I
Mean
mean,
Machine was?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, if you look at Carol Brook, I mean, his only two losses, of course, were to Golovkin and then Spence right after that.
Yeah.
Arguably the best middleweight
And
and
the best
welterweight in the
welterweight.
world.
Yeah.
And coming from 160 back down to 147 without an interim fight in between, that's crazy. I mean, look what happened to Roy Jones when Roy Jones tried that from after he beat John Reese. He comes back to his division and gets starched by Antonio Tarver.
Well, the easy,
It
yeah,
takes something out of you.
absolutely. And the real way to just gauge it for the casual fan, go back and watch when Kell Brook beat Sean Porter. And then go and watch when Sean Porter lost to Errol Spence. And watch the disparity. Kell Brook handled Sean Porter. Errol Spence was in a toe-to-toe war. I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
and Kell Brook, I mean, he was in hostile territory. He was a guy
Oh,
coming over
yeah.
from the UK. I mean, it wasn't in Sean Porter's hometown, but it was here in Los Angeles. Sean Porter lives in Las Vegas, so it was definitely a pro Porter crowd. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, I mean, Kell Brook should be nice and rested and nice and healthy. You know, hopefully the eye sockets have held up and everything, and he's getting some good sparring. And this could be, like I said, I mean, could be one of those fights where would it really be a shock for Kell Brook to beat Terrence Crawford? Not in my eyes.
Nope. And I tell you right now, you watch when the Vegas odds actually come. The odds will be not too wide, but they'll lean towards Crawford. But come fight
Yeah, of
time,
course.
it's going to change because a lot of people have lost faith in Crawford, and especially based on the fact he got hurt and dropped, even though they didn't give the guy credit for it against that midget, the Mean Machine. How is he going to deal with the power of Kell Brook, the speed of Kell Brook? Kell Brook's a smart fighter.
Just the physical strength of Kell Brook. Kell
Absolutely.
Brook's a strong guy.
Guy
Man.
went toe to toe with Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin could sit here and say all day, "Oh, I wasn't hurt by him." Bullshit. Guy lifted you
Yeah.
off the fucking ground. You know. I mean, you got to give the guy credit. But hey, bro, it was a good one today. We'll have the video up next time, everybody and stuff. Mike, why don't you sign us out?
All right, for everybody at End of the Ring Live, have a good one, everybody. We will see you on the next time.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.